Hi, Rachel. So I have quite a few comments on here, and I do want to let you know that I like that you focused um, your main claim that due to concerns about the end of the world, society portrays a lot of fears into the media, such as movies and books. So that's your main claim. Um, and so then the rest of your paper should be focused on how society portrays a lot of fears in the media, um, such as movies and books. So then you give examples in here such as the Maze Runner, Avengers, and Hunger Games. However, in what ways does the Maze Runner, Avengers, and the Hunger Games address these concerns about the end of the world that society portrays, this fear of the end of the world? And so, in essence, you could even you don't have to do this, but every single paragraph should be then focused on this idea of the end of the world and how movies and books portray that and why they portray that fear. So um, also remember that a good thesis statement tells what your claim is as well as how you are arguing that claim. So for example, you would want to write this main claim in a sentence. Let's see, what do I have here? Okay, so you say that, you know, eschatology is a very popular concern in our society today, as the timing with recent events concerning the end of the world, such as the ending of the Mayan calendar, ignite an interest that produces works such as the Maze Runner, Avengers, and the Hunger Games that address different perspectives of our human capabilities. So you talk about the human capabilities again in this thesis statement, but then it's never talked about again throughout the paper. Furthermore, you talk about the Mayan calendar and world events concerning world events within the world, but then um, that's kind of a side note of why people feel the way that they do. Your main claim, if I understand correctly, is that it is concerns that cause society this fear of the end of the world that causes society to put um, the end of the world themes in movies and books. So either you're going to be arguing about how that happened, how is society portraying it, portraying the fears of individuals in those movies and books, or you're going to be talking about how those concerns cause them to create these um, movies and books. So that's why I'm a little bit confused on your thesis statement, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I think that you can develop it a little bit better. An example of a good thesis statement would be, due to concerns about the end of the world, society portrays a lot of fears into the media, such as movies and books. Um, some of these portrayals are found within the Maze Runner. Uh, some of these portrayals of the fear of society is found within the Maze Runner in the example of so-and-so, found within, as well as the Avengers with the example of so-and-so, as well as the Hunger Games with this situation. See what I mean? So you're saying what you're claiming as well as how you're going to argue it throughout the paper. And then that also gives your reader a great indication on what they're about to read, and it prepares their mind to understand what you're about to say. So you don't have to go very in depth in this first paragraph, but you do need to say how you're going to argue your main claim as well as what your main claim is. Just simply and boldly put, as simply as you can possibly make it, and as boldly as you can possibly make your claim, with the a short little blip about how you're going to argue it within the same sentence. or the next sentence following it. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. That will help to focus your paper as well, because then each of the individual arguments that you put within that thesis sentence will be your topic sentences in the other paragraphs, meaning you'll talk about those and that will be the main theme of the rest of your paragraphs, if that makes any sense. So if you talk about the Maze Runner and how that portrays the fear of societies, of the end of the world that society has, then you'll talk about just the Maze Runner during that paragraph. And you'll talk about how that movie portrays that this fear of the end of the world, if that's what you were arguing. So a lot of this does depend on you taking the stance and clearly stating that, and then understanding what you're trying to argue. So a lot of the comments that I have really are just having you go into thinking about, do I need to include this content? Is it important to argue my thesis statement? As well as after giving a specific example or specific evidences, it's always important to tie it back into the your thesis statement. So it is so important to go through this paragraph and try to apply these principles throughout the rest of the paper. So I do believe that your paper does need a lot of focus. So coming up with that thesis statement and how you're going to argue it, and then each individual paragraph will be a support to that thesis statement. And so you're always tying it back in after every single example that you give in the paragraph, after every single argument that you make. You should always go back and tie that into the thesis statement. Hopefully I'm making sense and not rambling. This is the main thing that needs to happen for your paper, and I hope that there's enough time. If you would like, I would like to show you something else actually. Forgive me, I'm at work. So, okay. So hopefully you can see this. Okay. All right. So an outline of your paper would, okay, so I have this document that I think I'll send you that will help you to organize your pre-writing thoughts. This is a document that truly has helped me to organize thoughts in the past, and I believe that it will help you. So it starts with coming up with your main claim, and then considering your audience. How do you need to put your main claim, or how do you need to change your main claim to better fit the needs of your audience? So in this case, it's Brother Ostad. How do you need to change your main claim so that it's both interesting to Brother Ostad and so that Brother Ostad can understand what you're saying? And also, this last question is very important. How can you adapt your thesis statement to fit the needs of the audience? So how can you adapt this main claim for the audience itself? Okay, and then it comes up with each individual paragraph has an argument to it that you're trying to argue. And to every argument, there should be an evidence or an example. An example is evidence. And so for every piece of evidence, you should ask yourself, how does this evidence support the argument? And does it fit audience needs? Also, how might it not support your argument? These are things that you need to think about. How might your audience think, oh, this doesn't really support my main claim? So as you go through and you think this through, it will allow you to organize your thoughts in a way that will help you to write your paper in a way that your audience understands what you're claiming and you fulfill the needs of your audience. So then after filling out this document, and you don't have to do 4 arguments, I just put 4 arguments on there. You could do 5, 6, 7, as many as you want, or as little as 1, 2, or 3 arguments throughout the paper. So then there comes this outline. This is the main first paragraph. The most important parts for your argument, this is the bones. Obviously, you need more to this in order to create a paper, but this is the most important and essential parts that need to be found within each paragraph in order to give the reader, I guess, convince the reader of your argument. So this is the first paragraph, the thesis. And then how does your thesis statement relate to the audience? So relating it to the audience. Then right here, this is the second paragraph, your next argument. This argument should always back up your thesis statement. So then you explain, after you write this argument, you explain how does it relate to your thesis statement. So why am I saying this argument? So for example, if I was arguing that Jackson Pollock was an existential artist, then I would talk about, if I was arguing that, let's say, Shimmering Light, I can't remember what that painting is called, but one of his paintings demonstrates that he is an existential artist. How does that relate to the thesis? Well, you can talk about what is an existential artist, and in what ways does that painting relate to existentialism. And along with that, you give evidences. And then you talk about, after you give that evidence or an example, then you talk about how does it relate to your overall argument within that paragraph. But then you also connect it back to that thesis statement. Hopefully this is making sense. I'm going to send you this document, and I don't know if you have enough time to actually fill it out, but I do think that it will help you to organize your thoughts. Now, I didn't talk about the concluding paragraph, and I can do that really quick. So the concluding paragraph should never give any new information, and it should always just restate your thesis statement and summarize why your thesis statement is true. So you just go through and you name all of the arguments and a little bit about what you talked about for each argument that's essential and pertinent for that paragraph. And so all of these can help out, and hopefully this will help you out. See you in class.